Distinguished guests, the President of the United States, accompanied by the U.S. Conference of Mayors President and Miami, Florida Mayor Francis Suarez, and U.S. Conference of Mayors Second Vice President and Columbus, Ohio Mayor Andy Ginther.
Thank you, Mr. President, for continuing this incredible tradition of inviting the mayors from the U.S. Conference of Mayors to the White House. It's really an honor. And I'll tell you, as I walked through this iconic building with my family, I couldn't help but notice the picture of bipartisan presidents throughout the years. And I thought that was a wonderful testament to the bipartisan nature of our organization, of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. And it was reminded me of a story that my dad once told me. He said that at a particularly difficult moment in Lyndon Johnson's presidency, they said to him, you know, Mr. President, can it get any worse? And he sort of thought about it and he paused and he said, oh, sure, I could be a mayor. So thank you so much, Mr. President. Mr. President, honorable members and fellow mayors, America's mayors stand on the front lines of American democracy. We serve the American people every day, from every background and in every part of the country. We listen and lead. We serve and protect. And we deliver for everyone. While we hold different viewpoints, philosophies, and experiences, today we all carry a common message. Our federal government should act, and we need it to act as quickly as possible. It needs to address the potholes of America. It needs to find a solution to the humanitarian and security crises on our border. This means addressing the core drivers, not just the symptoms of this crisis. From our confronting the repressive regimes of Latin America, to the human trafficking cartels, we must act. And we also must act on modernizing our visa system and our dysfunctional immigration laws. And I was pleased to see you, Mr. President, begin to address these issues recently when you visited the border. But of course, we all know we have a long way to go. We also need to act on public safety. We, from the federal government to the local government, need to clearly support our police. You said that just a year ago at our conference. We must bring the defund police movement to an end in word and in deed. We must support. We know the president is committed to funding law enforcement, and for that, we are grateful. We also must revisit failed policies like no cash bail, which seem to be contributing to the spike in violent crime in our cities. We need to act on maintaining our fiscal health and economic security. All of us here must balance our budget and honor our debts. The federal government must do the same, just as mayors have done across America. Finally, we should continue working together in the spirit of the bipartisan infrastructure law by further building out our American infrastructure, from roads and bridges to our digital economy. We share your concerns about strengthening our infrastructure and our security. We need to do more, we want to do more, and God willing, we will do more, together to strengthen America and keep our future strong. Thank you for your time, thank you for your hospitality, and thank you again for hosting us today in the White House. And now I'd like to introduce the second Vice President of the conference, Andy Ginther, the Mayor of Columbus, Ohio, the heartland of the country, to share a few remarks on how our partnership with the administration is rebuilding American manufacturing, we just talked about, and strengthening the nation's economy. Thank you.
Thank you, President Suarez, Vice President Shivi, all of our colleagues here today. As President Suarez mentioned, I'm Andy Ginther, Mayor of the City of Columbus and part of the leadership team at the U.S. Conference of Mayors. I have the pleasure this afternoon of introducing someone who has been an incredible friend, our strongest ally as America's mayors. When this president, think about this, just 2 years ago, this president entered office, American cities were hurting. We were still trying to make our way through the most disruptive global event in any of our lifetimes. Mayors were on the front lines of the pandemic and all the downstream consequences: economic disruption, mental illness, gun violence, homelessness. We got to work, and so did this president. He said, we're not just going to build back. He said, we're not just going to build back, we're going to build back better. And working hand in hand with local leaders, he has delivered over and over and over again. Our CEO and Executive Director, Tom Cochran, has been at the helm of the Conference of Mayors for more than 50 years. I know he agrees when I say the last 2 years have been the most consequential and productive for mayors in the history of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. So much of that is thanks to our partnership with President Biden. The American Rescue Plan ensured we could protect public health, keep city workers on the job, and keep our local economies afloat. The bipartisan infrastructure law, allowing us not to just catch up on years of neglect, but jump ahead and claim the future, to beat out the rest of the world, so we have the most efficient and safe transportation system for the 21st century. The Inflation Reduction Act, delivers on one of the mayor's biggest priorities, fighting back against climate change. The gun safety legislation shows that fighting back against gun violence is possible. We have more to do, but we do not accept that deaths from gun violence in our communities are just an acceptable part of living in America. The first time since the Clinton administration, bipartisan gun safety legislation is now the law of the land because of this president. And something incredibly important to my community in our part of Ohio, the CHIPS and Science Act. It will ensure that the United States, not China, is leading the development of new technology. It has the potential to turn the old Rust Belt into the new Silicon Valley. Not bad for 2 years of work. Look, we're a bipartisan group. Mayors don't let politics or partisanship get in the way of getting things done for the people we serve. Former Mayor of Pittsburgh used to say there are 3 kinds of people in America: Republicans, Democrats, and mayors. When someone says it can't be done, we just work harder. I can't tell you how refreshing it is to have a president who works like mayors. I know he'll be the first to tell you we've got a lot more work to do, and we need to do it together. But I think it's worth taking a moment to appreciate how far we have come and all that we've accomplished together. America can still do great things when Republicans, Democrats, and independents come together to fight for America. Mr. President, thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and most importantly, your friendship with America's mayors. Friends, it is a great privilege and honor for this little kid from Columbus to introduce the 46th President of the United States, America's greatest champion of mayors, President Joe Biden.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You better sit down. You don't want this going to my head. A kid from Scranton. Look, Mayor Suarez, thank you for your leadership at the conference. Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. But, and Andy, thank you for that introduction. You know, it's wonderful to finally welcome all of you to the White House after not being able to be here because of the pandemic for so long. We appreciate it a great deal. And some of you know I started my career as a county councilman in the state of Delaware, and then I ran for the U.S. Senate because serving as a local official was too hard. They know where you live. They knock on your door, and I've always had enormous respect for the job you do. And by the way, Suarez, you and I have something else in common. You know what it is? We both married way above our station. Way, way above our station. You all think I'm kidding. Some things are just self-evident. Today is 2 years since I was sworn in as president. And and with your help, we've gotten a lot done. I think if you look around the room, we got a lot of cabinet members who are mayors. A lot of mayors. You got old Mitch Landry from Nolans down there, you know. And that's like being mayor of a country. Yeah, I tell you what, my daughter went down to Tulane University in large part because his dad, it's a long story, but when he was mayor, and I thought she's going to come home talking with boy talking funny at me. You know what I mean? From Bayou Lafourche or something. Mayor Pete is, even though he's the secretary, they still call him Mayor Pete. And you know, you got Marty Walsh from Boston. I don't know where Marty is. We got a lot of mayors, and that's why I think we're making such progress. Look, the fact is that, it's fitting that we are here together today, and because you mayors know how to get things done. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. Because you have no choice, as a matter of fact. Yesterday I was in California. We're grappling with historic California. Start off, the governor looked at me and said, Mr. President, we used to be the 5th largest economy in the world, now we're the 4th. That's true, in the world. I tell you what, so I genuflected and we moved on. I said, that means you don't need that $10 billion we just gave you, right? And y'all think I'm kidding, that's what we did, $10 billion. But all kidding aside, he's a great governor and has written well. But look, dealing with historic storms and flooding, you know, when your town or city faces a crisis, it's the mayor who gets the first call. I've seen it. I've traveled this country after floods and tornadoes, wildfires, hurricanes. As a matter of fact, I was kidding, but there's a serious piece to it when I pointed out that to the governor, we got to stop taking these helicopter rides, because I went over this. I think it was the 5th one in this state, traveling the state. More of the forest is burned down there up in Oregon than the entire state of Missouri. I mean, it's a long, long, long way. A lot of damage. And I want to thank the mayors across the country for doing everything they can to recover and rebuild. It matters that you're the ones who make sure, as trite as it sounds, that the garbage gets picked up, the potholes get fixed, the buses you can catch to work and be able to continue to be there on time, and so much more of significant consequence. But those things are consequential. You affect people's quality of life more than any other group of people in the world. And mayors know the measure of success isn't how many partisan points you score, it's how many problems you fix. Can you fix the problem? When I came to office, we had a lot of problems. Can you hear me? The pandemic was raging, our economy was reeling, but we acted together. Now, 2 years in, it's clearer than ever that our plan's working. We're building the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not just the top down. Because when we do that, by the way, the wealthy do very, very well. And everybody, the poor, have a shot, and the middle class can have a little breathing room. An economy that benefits that folks in the heartland as well as in our cities and all across America. And, I remember, as I said, my family, I was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania. When Cole died when I was in 3rd grade, we had to move. But I go back to Scranton. Everybody's joke is they're from Scranton. Everybody's from Scranton. But think of all the towns you know, and some of you are mayors of, that they go through school, they want to stay where their family is, where their relatives are, where they know everything, and they have to say, Mom, I got to leave. There's no jobs here. There's no jobs here in my town. I'm serious. I'm deadly earnest. And what we're trying to do is not just rebuild an economy, bring back the pride and the sense of belonging, the sense of I want to stay where I live now, where I'm able to do what I want to do. And that's the whole purpose of what we're trying to do in our cities when people used to move out. But, now they're beginning to move back in. Cities are growing, not just big cities, small towns as well. The economy, the rewards work where we don't need a college degree to provide for your family. It helps to have that college degree, but you don't need it to provide for your family. 2 years ago this week, 18 million people were out of work. 2 years ago this week. Now the number is under 1.6 million. They're the lowest levels in decades. The unemployment rate is as low as it's been in 50 years. We've created 11 million jobs, 700 and 50,000 manufacturing jobs. Where in the hell is it written to say we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world in this? I mean it, not a joke. I got so sick and tired of us exporting jobs and importing product. We're now importing jobs and exporting product. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're doing. I really mean it. Because we're beginning to invest in ourselves again because of you all. Over the last 2 years, more Americans applied to start a small business than any year in history, any year on record. They make up 50% of all the economy in America. Fewer families are facing foreclosure or an eviction than before the pandemic. Families in our communities are starting to breathe just a little bit easier. But folks, it's not only that. Pride is coming back to American communities and to American cities. And that's not just on the coast, as I said. It's in every part of the country, including many towns and cities and local communities that have been forgotten for much too long. Much too long. And it's not an accident. It's a strategy. When I came to office, a strategy that we stuck to, even in the face of a lot of criticism, a strategy that we put into action, a strategy to recover and rebuild and invest in America. You know, hesitate a second to just digress a little bit. We used to invest 2% of our GDP in research and development every year. That's what we did in America. But then, along the way, we stopped. We stopped investing in America in research and development. We invest now 0.7%. We used to be number one. Now China is number two. We're number 8. I mean, there's things we've allowed to happen. It's not been conscious. It's just sort of slipped up on us. And the way in which we've changed the way we dealt with corporate law, a whole range of things. But we're changing it. And we're changing it. As I said, we're going to export product, not jobs. With your support, I signed the law of the American Rescue Plan to deliver immediate economic relief to families and communities that needed it most. One study found that before the law was passed, 70% of the mayors in America expected to cut critical jobs like teachers and transit workers. 27% of you were facing steep cuts in police department budgets. So we acted. And with the CARES Act we passed under the previous administration, some of it had to go to your legislatures for permission to get the money. I've been the bad guy when I was a senator and as vice president, a pain in the neck. Why do you have to go through the legislature? No, I'm serious. I'm deadly earnest about that. Because you go through the legislature, you can't blame them. They say, I want a piece of my district. But you can apply directly. Often I wrote the cops bill years ago. You didn't have to go to the legislature or governor to determine. You could apply directly. If you qualified, you got it directly. You got the money directly. Well, that's what we're talking about. And things began to change. Instead, we made sure the American Rescue Plan empowered you directly, to avoid painful layoffs. You put cops back in the street, firefighters back in the jobs. You kept teachers in classrooms. You asked for the money and you qualified for it. In Knoxville, Tennessee, Mayor Kincannon gave premium pay. Is the mayor here? There you are, Mayor. Well, you gave premium pay to police officers and firefighters to keep them on the job. It was a big deal. In Mesa, Arizona, Mayor Giles, I don't know where the mayor's here. I got to get people in trouble calling this out. Yeah. Mr. Mayor, how are you? Bought 5 new ambulances, hired behavioral health clinicians to help the fire department in crisis calls. And by the way, you know, when a cop turns off in a domestic violence case or someone's standing on the edge of a bridge, they don't need a cop. They need a psychologist with them. That's why we're putting more people. No, I'm serious. We're beginning to understand this all again. And a lot of you are applying for the money and using it for these mental health issues as well. You know, there are countless examples. When it comes to public safety, we know the answer is not to defund the police. Not to defund the police. It's to retrain some police. It's to make sure there's accountability. To make sure we know exactly what's happening, but it's not to defund the police. They need more funding and they need ancillary help as well. And through the American Rescue Plan, $350 billion of state and local governments, and we urge them to was available to them, to make communities safer. It turned out that one of the largest investments in public safety ever, and every single Republican in Congress voted against it. But a lot of mayors said, you talked to your representative, said, whoa, what? That, you know, it may be Biden's idea, but not all his ideas are bad. Oh, you think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding, you know. Many cities from Newark, New Jersey, to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but all kidding aside, have made major investments in community violence intervention initiatives. These studies have shown in some cases they can reduce violent crime up to 60%, particularly among our youth. It doesn't always do that much, but it can do that much. But as you may know better than most, when you see these problems of crime and the opioid epidemic, you know the big part of that is mental health. Mental health. I want to take a moment to talk to you about how we're addressing that as well. By the way, Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, has been really focusing on this a great deal. A lot of you have worked with him. Through the American Rescue Plan, we provided initial funding for cities to start to address some of the mental health needs arising from the pandemic. $5 billion for states and community organizations to deliver mental health and substance abuse treatment. $103 million in funding specifically to address mental health for frontline health professionals, like nurses. You read in your communities, you've dealt with your hospitals, where the nurses are just overworked and having serious, serious problems in terms of their own mental health. We know it wasn't enough, so probably the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. And we went even further. That provides $10 billion to address mental health needs. $2 billion of that is for young people in particular to pay for things like school counselors. And we know what fentanyl is doing to families and communities all across the country. We've worked hard to make sure the first responders have what they need when they respond to overdoses for young people who are dying. And by the way, we've confiscated an enormous amount of fentanyl, not just at the border, but beyond the border. We've confiscated throughout, I think it's, let me get the number here, I don't want to get it wrong. We've confiscated 379 million doses of fentanyl. And by the way, 100,000, mostly kids, have died from fentanyl. And it's put in things that they never anticipated as part of. As mayors, you know how much this matters. That's why I brought many former mayors into the administration. Keisha Lance Bottoms is here. So. He said it was harder being mayor of Atlanta than being president, but I don't know. I'm only kidding. But all kidding aside, well, what have we done? She's a senior advisor on public engagement, led the cities through the pandemic. She makes sure to bring the perspective of local officials and community leaders to decisions we make here at the White House. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack, a former mayor in Iowa, is strengthening our nation's rural communities, and he really is. He's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And I know he's a Secretary of Agriculture, but what he's doing, American grocery stores are stocked while American farmers thrive and our young people have access to food when schools are closed. Secretary of Housing and Urban Affairs, Marcia Fudge. Marcia's right here. She got a hell of a job, a former mayor in Ohio, working very hard to close the wealth gap, expanding efforts to build generational wealth through home ownership. How did all the mainstream middle-class people get their wealth? 90% of them through investing in their homes. They were able to buy a home. They built equity in their home. That's how they were able to borrow to get their kids to school. That's how they built their equity. Well, the same thing is happening now, and she's working really hard to provide that opportunity, and as well as combating homelessness, which a lot of you are dealing with on your streets. And while folks continue to recover, we're also rebuilding. Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of New Orleans, was president of this organization, is now my senior advisor and infrastructure coordinator to helping rebuild America through a once-in-a-generation bipartisan infrastructure bill. It's always hard to make. He's working with all of you to modernize our nation's roads, highways, bridges, railroads, airports, ports, water systems, the internet, and so much more. Last year alone, nearly 7,000 projects were identified and are underway with funding from the infrastructure law. By the end of this year, that'll be more than 20,000, more than 20,000. If I can hesitate again for a second, digress slightly. One of the things I've been telling the press, they look at me like I'm wonderful, right? No, all kidding aside, why I keep saying it. We did a lot last year with your help. It's only now beginning to bear fruit because we passed this infrastructure bill. That's a 10-year bill, and it's taken time to get it off the ground. Mitch McConnell and I just announced the construction of a new bridge, $1 billion across the Ohio River. It's going to fundamentally change transportation north and south, not just from Ohio to Kentucky, but across the nation. So many things are happening. We passed the bill relating to the cost of insulin. Well, guess what? Only now, as of January 1st, a lot of people are waking up and finding out if they're on Medicare, they only have to pay $35 a month instead of $400 a month to save their lives. And I want the drug companies to be able to make money, but I tell you what, people explain when they raised the price that as beyond inflation, that they invested more money in what they did in order to justify the price. Otherwise, guess what? We're going to go back and get it from them under the law. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. So we're doing things that just make some common sense. Just some common sense because of you all. Labor Secretary Marty Walsh, former mayor of Boston, he's parking his cars. I kid Marty. But he's making sure these projects have prevailing wage and purporting to move and suggest for significant apprenticeships so people can make a living off of what they're doing. And then, by the way, I'm going to talk in a minute about dealing with the whole idea of what we're doing in terms of new investments and with the CHIPS legislation. Well, one of the leading investors of over, I think it's so far $22 billion in the United States from another country. I said, why are you investing in America? He said, because you got the best workers and you're the safest environment in the world in which we can do this. So we're helping to rebuild our economy with jobs that don't require four-year degrees, promoting an economy that works for middle-class and working-class Americans. Transportation Secretary Pete is here. Look, we know, better known as Mayor Pete, but working with many of you to address those quality of life issues that really matter to people you serve. Not just through big bridges and highway projects, but through, though they're important, but also through smaller projects that are critical to your cities. Like in Madison, Wisconsin, where Mayor Rose Conway is buying 46 electric buses, replacing those dirty diesels, bad for the health of the environment, and making it clear. No, I'm serious. It's a big deal. We're helping City rebuild airport. There you are. Okay. Well, thank you. And it means our kids aren't going to be inhaling that diesel fumes when they get off the bus. For real, it matters. Environmentally, it matters as well. And so, you know, we're helping cities rebuild airport terminals in Atlanta with Mayor Andre Dickens, in Orlando with Mayor Buddy Dyer, in L.A. with Karen Bass, and with the leadership of Vice President Harris, we're partnering with you to deliver affordable high-speed internet to every single household in America, affordable high-speed internet. So no parent has to park in front of a McDonald's to do the homework with their kid when the school's not in session, when they can't go to school. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for farmers, I might add, and a whole lot of other people to know exactly what products are costing and sell them for. And now over 50 million households have affordable internet that they didn't have just before we passed the law. We're also making the biggest investment ever in climate, the Inflation Reduction Act. We're creating millions of good-paying jobs and investing in fence-lined communities that have suffered the most as a consequence of being smothered by pollution. Think of the Cancer Alley in Louisiana or Route 9 in Delaware, where all those facilities are. Well, we made a commitment. We're going to invest first and foremost as we clean up those communities, the people from that community, and we're going to invest in that, make that community better again. Our economic agenda ignited a manufacturing boom, the semiconductor boom, the battery boom, the electric vehicle boom. We're making things in America again in every part of America, cities large and small. The mayor of Phoenix, Kate, is Kate here? Thank you, Kate, for being here. I was with her last month to announce a small investment, $40 billion. $40 $40 billion invested by TMSC, the two semiconductor factories, and thousands of union workers helping to build them. And Andy, you know, the Field of Dreams outside of Columbus, where Intel's investing, it's 100 acres, but they're investing $20 billion to expand semiconductor manufacturing. I said 1,000 acres. I dubbed it, I didn't mean to, I shouldn't have, but I said this is the Field of Dreams. It is. It's a field of dreams. And by the way, of those jobs, of the 12,000 jobs, 7,000 are construction jobs. But guess what? They're paying prevailing wage. And those 5,000 jobs left, the average salary at those places, they tell them, are going to be $123,000 a year, and you don't need a college degree to do those jobs. This is in part urged by all of you. This is happening in no small part because of the bipartisan CHIPS and Science Act. Everybody signed on. The folks who've joined me at the bill signing and other victories. With your support, so many of you we've signed the first major gun legislation in 30 years. I'll say what I've said before, not all are going to agree with me, but we're going to ban assault weapons. They did it once, we're going to do it again. And the number of bullets can be in a clip. On Sunday, we acknowledged what would have been the 50th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. We're continuing to fight to protect women's right to choose. Last year, when I held the first of its kind White House summit at the request of others against hate-fueled violence, this group led the effort with 150 mayors to sign a compact, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, to prevent and address this type of violence in our communities. I'm committed to continue this work with all of you, but I need you badly. But there's more to do. As was mentioned by your president, immigration is another major issue affecting many of your communities, particularly border communities and near communities. I visited the border earlier this month, first time as president. I've been there before, but the first time as president. And I'm taking action where I have the legal capacity to do so. I'll continue to call on Congress to act to pass comprehensive immigration reform to fix the system. The first bill I introduced was a comprehensive reform legislation on immigration. But because of some in the Congress, they refused to consider it. They found it a better issue to campaign on than an issue to solve. So we have a choice. They can keep using immigration to try to score political points, or we can help solve the problem. Immigration reform used to be a bipartisan issue, and we can make it that again, in my view. Let me close with this. I ran for office for 3 reasons. One was, and even my campaign team thought I was wrong in terms of the basis upon which I was running. But one of the things when I got elected as a 29-year-old kid to the Senate, I had to wait to be legally to be able to be sworn in because I wasn't old enough. No joke. They talked about, my being the youngest. I wasn't. There was one younger elected popularly than I was. But, I spent a lot of time. I used to get asked all the time, Mr. Mayor, what's the secret? Because if I won against a really good guy, he was a decent man, we never had a crossword with us, progressive Republican who helped write the Clean Water and Clean Air Act, et cetera. But we had disagreements on a number of other things. And second time I ran, he actually endorsed me. But the point is this is simple. I used to get asked, there must be a secret. If you could have won, there must be some secret. And I used to think about it, the people for the next 3-4 years that asked me that who were running for office in Delaware. And I finally figured it out. And you all are successful and you know it. I said, the secret is, have you figured out what's worth losing over? Have you figured out what's so important to you you'd rather lose than win and have to compromise on it? And so when I ran this time, and I had not planned on running again, and all of you were probably saying, why the hell didn't you follow your instinct? But I honest to God didn't. My son had passed away, and I had no desire to. I was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Things were going fine. To make a long story short, when I did, I decided there were 3 reasons to run, and I mean it. One was to restore the soul of America, the decency, honor, the idea we could deal with one another. No, I genuinely mean it. It's the way, and I've been this way my whole career, how we build the economy, from the bottom up and the middle out, for real. Look, I come from the state of corporate America. More corporations are incorporated in my state than every other one of your states combined. And I got elected 7 times there. So, you know, it wasn't I was anti-corporate, but I have a different view in terms of what the priority should be. And so, as I said, when the middle does well, they generate hope, give chance to the working class, and when they do well, the wealthy do very, very well. Well, and the third reason I ran, which has turned out to be the hardest to deal with, and that's unite the country. We are a democracy. We cannot be sustained if we stay 50 different islands or 2 different parties that no longer talk to one another. For the last 2 years since my inauguration, I think we've made some progress, large part because of many of you sitting in this room. And I'm really optimistic in the year ahead that we're implementing the laws we've already passed, will deliver real benefits, and people are going to feel them in their everyday lives. You know, that work we're going to continue to do together. Together, we're proving that every city and town in this country, our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. And I really mean it. I was asked by my senior team, and Peter remembers, if I could do anything to change the attitude of optimism in America, what was the one thing I'd do? Just I could change one thing. It's going to sound bizarre what I tell you. I said I'd cure cancer. And they looked at me like, well, cure cancer? Because nobody thinks it's the most frightening thing to people. And if we did it, America can do big things again. There's nothing beyond our capacity, I swear to God. There is nothing beyond the capacity of the States of America. Remember who in hell we are. We're the United States of America. When we work together, there's nothing beyond our capacity. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So we got to work together, folks. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Now I'm going to turn it over to Julie. Thank you. They gave me a different mic they can turn off, so I...
A couple of questions that we will take from a couple of mayors. We'll start with Mayor Tashara Jones from St. Louis, Missouri.
Good afternoon, Mr. President.
Mayor, how are you?
Great, great. Thanks to the bipartisan infrastructure law and the CHIPS and Science Act, we're seeing jobs return to our cities, and we're preparing our citizens for the many opportunities to come. What can we as mayors do to help you further your agenda of shoring up our national security and bring more high-quality jobs to America's cities?
I think 2 things. One, be realistic and don't confuse the national debt with debt reduction on a yearly basis. The debt we're paying on, and we're going to have a little discussion about that with the new majority leader of the House, has accumulated over 200 years. Over 200 years. Not a joke. That's how long, that's what the national debt is. It's over, $31 trillion. But it's over 200 years. And 1/4 of that debt, 1/4 of that was accumulated in the 4 years of my predecessor. 1/4 of it. So what we've actually done, Mayor, we've actually cut the deficit on a yearly basis. In the first year, because of what I'm not being solicitous, because we all did, $350 billion. And last year, this year, we cut that deficit on a yearly basis by over $1 trillion. So it's over $1 trillion, roughly $400 billion we've cut the deficit. The yearly deficit, year to year. We got to focus on making sure we do not accumulate more debt on the historic 200 years and gradually continue to reduce it. One of the things that we've done is the budget we're going to be introducing, you're all going to see, is expected to reduce the debt another $1 trillion this next year by spending less than we bring in. Now, the big debate, I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to talk about in the State of the Union, is a fundamental disagreement on what we should do to cut. What do we cut? Well, it's not just cutting. What do you raise? What taxes do people pay? How do they pay their taxes? And do they pay it fairly? And so one of the things that's going to be a big issue in dealing with the national debt that could, if we don't meet our national debt and renege on the first time, we have a calamity that exceeds anything that's ever happened financially in the United States. And so one of the things that we're going to do is it's going to get down to a decision of whether do we, in fact, make sure that folks, do we cut Social Security to raise taxes on trillionaires? Billionaires. There's 745 or 50 billionaires in America. Average tax rate they pay is 2%. I think you should be able to be a billionaire, but I think you should pay a little more than 2%. No, and by the way, I'm not trying, as Douglas knows me well, I'm not trying to be alarming about it, but I mean, it's a reality. Now, there's a lot of arguments why that shouldn't be, because they generate so much energy and so much growth, et cetera. But there's a lot of things we can do. Now, the option that's going to be offered, you're going to see, is the way to deal with cutting that debt is to cut Social Security, cut Medicaid. We got to do something about Social Security and Medicaid. No, but these are the kind of debates we're going to have. And they're going to be honest debates. For you, it seems to me, for a mayor, the things that I believe, and I've not been a mayor, but I think I've watched long enough to know the difference between great ones like you and folks who don't do much, or I shouldn't say don't too much. I shouldn't say it. You've had more difficulty, is focus on the things that make your city unique and make it grow. What are the things that make it grow? Well, first of all, I could go on, but I'm just going to give you one example. We're in a situation where if you were one of the reasons why America became the most advanced and economically prosperous nation in the 21st century, we're the first nation in the world to have a universal education system, grades 1 through 12. Now, others had systems that were superior to ours in terms of their exclusiveness, but not universal. Now, I wonder if anybody, if today we were starting off and saying, we're going to decide we're going to have a universal education system. Would anybody think in the second quarter of the 21st century that 12 years was enough to compete? I don't think so, for real. So a lot of you are doing a lot of experimental work in terms of not just pre-K, but you're doing it in terms of education, teaching kids to read, write, add, and subtract at 3 and 4 and 5 years old. And you're focusing on apprentice programs after college. You're focusing on, after high school. And you're focusing in high school on allowing people to learn trades instead of, remember, there used to be, even you're old enough to remember, not you, Mayor. But when, there were shop classes in school where people learned whether they're comfortable working with their hands, so there's a lot of things that we can do in education. There's a lot of things you can also do in terms of dealing with, I'm going to get you a lot more money, God willing, because I think we have universal support for it, beyond the money that came out of the original legislation. There's a proposal that I've just presented to, I'm the guy that wrote the community policing law, but got very bad publicity. But guess what? People are figuring out, guess what? It works. The people who most need the help, the most victimized, are the poorest communities. So we need cops in those communities, from those communities, but cops that are held accountable to everything that they say we're supposed to do. And we can do that. So focusing on law enforcement that, in fact, is equitable. Focusing on, for example, nationally, I still think we should have the George Floyd legislation, but I didn't able to do that. So what I was able to do, I said no knock warrants are limited significantly. We're in a situation where you have to, no chokeholds. There are certain basic things. When I was coming up as a kid, cops were required to learn to shoot to kill. Well, you ought to be able to shoot to stop. Everything shouldn't be an extreme. So the way we train police officers is changing. And there's a lot of things you can look at to determine whether or not you can affect the safety of your city. And also, I think that, well, I'm not going to go on, but so there's a lot of things you can do, because I believe you'll have the economic wherewithal through the programs in the federal government, not telling you what to do, but giving you the wherewithal to do the things that you think most need to be done. And every community is a slightly different need in terms of emphasis. And I think one of the great mayors in the country is Duggan from Detroit. Not a joke. I tell you what, he inherited a hell of a situation. And I remember Barack Obama turned to me one day and said, not a joke, Joe, fix Detroit. I said, oh, no problem. No problem. Well, I got to know Detroit. I found out things the mayor taught me was, guess what? That something was as close to 70% of the people in the 60% of the people in the city who were high school educated had jobs that were outside the city. And they couldn't get there. They didn't have, 60% of them didn't have cars. So we ended up getting, 20 new buses, was it initially? I mean, just practical things to determine what are the things that both allow neighborhoods to stay united and move. And again, there's a lot. And one of the things that Mayor Landrieu, as I still call him the mayor, but he's much more than that. He's running this show for me because we also have, I can't remember I asked for the phone number and I forgot it. 881-8946 that you can call, because we have people in here. No, I'm not joking. A lot of people know we have these programs, but they're hard to navigate. So you can pick up the phone and call, how do I get the money to do A, B, C, or D? Can I do this with that? To cut through the red tape. Anyway, I hope I answered. You're about to cut me off.
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have one more question from Mayor Sheevy from Reno, Nevada.
All right, thank you. So first of all, thank you for inviting us to your home. We love what you've done with the place. It's beautiful. And also, I want to say thank you.
You like museums, right?
I want to say thank you from the bottom of all of our hearts. I know everyone in the room is so grateful that you have brought mayors into your cabinet. I think it should be a requirement of every president. Mayor Landrieu, I love you. Mayor Pete, I love you. And I honestly believe more has been done because of that. And so thank you so much for your leadership. We are so grateful.
We have, six mayors in cabinet positions?
Are they 6? All right, maybe we can get to 12? I know 6 more in here that would like to come.
We have more women than men.
See, love that too. Love that too. So you talked a little bit about mental health, and I want to say thank you so much for your leadership on that. It means the world to me. We are so fortunate to work with your Surgeon General. He is fantastic. He is fantastic. So all your mayors in the room are going to become mental health warriors. And we're going to be addressing addiction and loss and grief. And I'm going to ask you something very personal. You've had a lot of loss and grief in your life. And I know over the last few years, a lot of Americans have had a lot of loss and grief because of the pandemic. What would be what would you say to them? And your advice to someone experiencing personal loss and grief?
Well, first of all, as close staff knows, I spend a lot of time with folks who've gone through loss. Wife, daughter, husband, children, etc. And granted, I did lose my wife and daughter right after I got elected to the Senate. Tractor trailer broadsided them, killed my wife and daughter, and my 2 boys were little boys. They were on top of their deceased mom and sister for a long while because they took the my local fire department a long time to do the jaws of life to get them out. And then the guy who should be standing here if Andy Biden was going to be president, and I'm not, it's not hyperbole, is my son Bo. He's more qualified than I was. But he decided, I'll never forget, and asked me one Friday, he said, "Dad, what are you doing on Friday?" And I said, "What do you need?" He said, "I'd like you to swear me in." I said, "Swear you in? You're Attorney General of the state of Delaware. Swear you into what?" He said, "I joined the United States National Guard, the Delaware National Guard." And then when his unit got sent, he didn't have to go, but he got an exemption to go as long as he gave up the seat. And, you know, that was tough. But you know what? I had family. I had an incredible wife. No man deserves one great love, let alone two. And I had a mom and a dad and a sister and a brother were alive. And for example, when the accident happened early on, my sister's my best friend in the world, gave up her home, and she and her husband moved into my house to help me raise my kids. Without being asked, just moved in. And by the way, 5 days after I was married, they were gone. But I say that not about me, but it's about what mental health does. I had people around me that were there to help me. I was lucky. Everybody thinks I commuted every day I've traveled over 1,200,000 miles on Amtrak. Not a joke. I commuted every single day for 36 years, and then beyond that, as vice president, to go home. Everybody thought I went home because I went home because I couldn't afford two places. But anyway, no. I went home because I get to, you know, kiss my boys goodnight and lay down with Sarah prayers, and then my daughter, etc. But I had my mother. I had my mother there. Every morning I'd drop the boys off when they were little at my mom's house, and then later I'd be able to drive them to school and they'd be picked up. But my point is I had so much help, and I had psychological help. Everywhere down there was someone there to basically hold my hand. Well, that's the mental health that a lot of families don't have. They don't have. And a lot of folks are in a situation where if they just had somebody to talk to, and that's why I think some of the things we can do that can also help families going through some real difficult times is, for example, preschool education, reading, writing, arithmetic, age 3, and it does two things. It helps your kid get an advantage, but it also helps mom or dad or a single parent or parents who are going through hell to have somebody there until 5 o'clock taking care of your kid while they're learning. So there's a lot of things that it does that gives people, but in addition to that, people who've gone through really tough times with drug addiction and a whole range of other things, alcoholism, they also are in a situation where they find themselves being able to have the kind of medical help that is needed in the mental health side of it. And so I just think having people to reach out who are professionals who know how to deal with people going through trauma, tragedy, or self-inflicted wounds that they've had. And it makes a gigantic difference. The need for, I mean, look at what's happened. And I think I sometimes underestimate it because I stopped thinking about it, but I'm sure you don't. We lost over 1 million people in several years to COVID. What that means is, and the study was done, that there are 8 people close to every one of those, on average, those 1 million people. How many mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncle, aunts got up in the morning or sat down for dinner at night and there was an empty chair? How many? And what impact does that have on the rest of the family? And there's a lot of tricks that you can be taught, a lot of things you can do to engage the children who survive, engage the children who aren't addicted, engage the parent who. So I just think there's so many things that you can do. And the reason I gave you my personal story was I think it's just about knowing somebody's there, knowing somebody you can reach out to when you get scared and hold their hand. Whether it's a drug problem, whether it's a physical problem, whether it's just a, and by the way, my wife Jill got very engaged with the Brits and the U.S. military and dealing with trying to convince people. Think of the military. The one thing you're taught to as a warrior is never complain, never explain, man. Don't complain. Well, guess what? Mental health is a problem. It's a serious problem. You have more people dying of suicide in the United States military than any other reason today. More people. And so we got involved in reaching out to help families so that you don't make it, and then I'll conclude with this. We have to take the stigma off of mental health. Mental health is no different than you break your arm or your leg. No, it really isn't. It's God's truth. It is a problem that is a medical problem. And so hardest part is to get people, a lot of people, I say most people, to acknowledge that I'm getting help. I'm getting help. That's why we had this effort to deal, my wife dealt with this program to provide for health for, post-traumatic stress for so many warriors. Pete, you toted a rifle, man. You were there. You see all the people. I don't know how many people that that need the help. But it's a help that you need any more than you need if you broke your leg. But we got to take the stigma away from the notion that you need mental health, because it's no different. And by the way, think of this. How many folks do you know, how many cops on your department need some mental health because they're suffering from post-traumatic stress, what they went through? I mean, we don't look at them and say, they're weak. But, it's just about, anyway, we just got to reach out and change the notion of a stigma associated with the notion of seeking mental health. And it starts early when you can detect with children when they need some guidance, really, or it doesn't mean they're, quote, crazy. It means they have some disposition that has to be treated. And there's a lot that can be done. I'm talking too much. I apologize, guys. Thank you all very much for the game.
Distinguished guests, please remain in your seats while the president departs.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. President, are you first Poland's call to send Leopard tanks to Ukraine?
When will you meet Mr. Suarez?
Leopard, do you support Poland's call to send Leopard tanks by Germany and other countries, Leopard tanks to Ukraine? And
Ukraine's going to get all the help they need.
When will you meet Mr. McCarthy, sir? Will you meet Mr. McCarthy next week, sir? Thank you.